If you want to grow your own cut flowers but you don't have room for a cut flower patch, then watch this video. I've been harvesting cut flowers from my gardens for as long as I've had gardens, which is a long time. But about 3 years ago or thereabouts, I started growing flowers more specifically with cut flowers in mind that would fit in with the cottage garden aesthetic that I was aiming for. So in this video, let's talk about flowers that you can grow in a small garden like mine that are really highly productive for growing as cut flowers in your garden, and ones that really will keep performing even after you've cut them. So that's what we're talking about in this video. Before we get on with the rest of the video, may I invite you to visit my new revamped website at jillbrotherton.com, where we have lots of new gardening related gifts and products which you can buy directly from Amazon. The website is organised into two distinct shops. There's a USA shop and a UK shop, although many of these products can be bought internationally directly from Amazon. You can see a drop down list which will give you the various options depending on what products you fancy. On each page there's also a tab that will take you directly to the category you want. We also have a range of Christmas related designs and colouring books. I have t-shirts come in a variety of colours and sizes, so don't be put off by the colour pictured on our website. If you like the design, you can likely buy it in another colour. Anyhow, with all that being said, let's get back to the video. So I just want to impress upon you, you don't need a specific cut flower patch. You can grow cut flowers just in your ordinary garden. They are ordinary flowering garden plants that just happen to make really good cut flowers as well. Many of these you can even grow in pots if you have an even smaller garden that you want to harvest cut flowers from. So don't be put off and don't buy into this nonsense that you have to actually go and specifically create an area for growing cut flowers. You do not. So the other thing I just wanted to mention is you don't need to just grow annuals or perennial, you can grow annuals, perennials, or have flowering shrubs. All of these work as cut flowers in the garden. So number one, let's get straight onto it. Number one is roses. Roses thrive from being deadheaded anyway. That keeps the production of flowers up and stops it fruiting. So every time you cut a rose, a ripe rose, you end up sort of creating basically another rose later down in the pipeline. So roses, and of course they're fragrant. I've never bought a non-fragrant rose, and I never will. I don't see the point of them. So roses are really good. The only downside for roses is of course that they have a shorter vase life, but I mean, remember, we're just growing these for ourselves or for gifts for friends. And also there are ways you can maximize the vase life on a rose, which I won't get into in this video, but I love roses, and I specifically buy the David Austin roses, although there are many other now new varieties of roses coming up that are highly fragrant, disease resistant, etc. I have a playlist on roses if you want to watch how to care for roses, etc. I planted a rose hedge, and I must get 100 bouquets from it every year at least. So roses is my number one. Number two is sweet peas, and you've seen a lot. I've put out a lot of videos on sweet peas. I've got a sweet pea masterclass if you really want to watch that. But honestly, sweet peas are so easy to grow. I'm just going to have a little soapbox moment here where I'm going to have a little rant, because I am at the age where I grew up on mainstream media, watching mainstream media TV that involved celebrity chefs, celebrity gardeners, celebrity this, that and the other. And I can tell you for a fact, all those people have gate kept information from you, or have needlessly overcomplicated something to make themselves appear more important, or as though they've got an edge, or so they can overcomplicate it so they can sell you a product associated or whatever with this process, their own branded stuff or something. And I can tell you, it really actually makes me angry, because I lost a lot of growing time watching those programs, because I used to follow their instructions and then not succeed growing. And that's very frustrating. So for years, I did not grow sweet peas because I thought they were really complicated plants that were difficult to grow. How wrong I have been. And it's really only since I started watching YouTube, which for me was only about 5 years ago. I'm quite relatively new to YouTube. And I started watching it about 5 years ago. And I started watching all these people growing these flowers as easy as pie. And none of them were celebrities, except well, not outside of YouTube anyway. And they weren't necessarily gatekeeping. You still do get those YouTubers, but there were many that do not gatekeep. And I suddenly had a revelation of growing. It absolutely transformed my growing because it made me realise that it was a lot easier than I thought. And so I started growing sweet peas, and blow me down, they were one of the easiest to grow. So sweet peas, and then of course they're really prolific flowerers, and of course they rely on deadheading for cutting. They're absolutely perfect. Anyone can grow them. I think there may be a couple of climates that limit your ability to grow sweet peas. So let me know in the comments if you have difficulties growing sweet peas in your zone, and let me know what zone that is. Number 3, as I say, is the self-seeder, is the Nigella, because if you grow that 1 year, and you can use the winter sowing method to grow that successfully. That's how I started with my Nigella. It's before I had a greenhouse, and now I get Nigella every year because they just self-seed everywhere. They're not scented, but they have a good vase life. Number 4, snapdragons. Snapdragons are beautiful. On my first year growing snapdragons, I started again in the winter sowing method, and they did take a long time to flower, and I felt like I was waiting all summer for these snapdragons to flower. So what I did the following year was I started them in the summer, autumn, and overwintered them, and then I got in the greenhouse, and then I got flowers much earlier, and then I was able to also reseed so that I got flowers later as well. And in my climate, they will overwinter, so they're like a short-lived perennial in our climate, and they will overwinter pretty well, and then you'll have a succession of flowers just growing the following year as well. What am I on? Number 5, Sweet William is, that's the first time I literally grew that was last year, and I kind of haven't sown any this year, so I'm a bit worried but that I won't have any. But you start those in the summer the previous year, but you can start them now. They will be late flowering, or they might not flower until the following year, but they are definitely worth starting. You can start them in the winter sowing method as well, and they will definitely grow into these beautiful flowers that are really productive for bouquets and indoor flower arrangements. That first of all, they keep flowering. Mine just kept flowering all summer. They weren't just a one and done. They're not like the other plants that I've mentioned where if you deadhead them, they'll grow more flowers. It kind of is a bit more savage. If you deadhead a sweet pea, a beautiful big flower head, you will notice. So you have to grow lots of sweet williams. But the vase life on them is incredible. They last for ages in the vase. Definitely recommend growing those. And the other one I grow, and I'm a little bit confused about the name of this one, number 6, is Canterbury bells, or campanula as people call them, but they're not those little ones that you get like in rockeries or just low growing. These are big ones that you grow, and they're nice big bells, and they have branching bells as well that you can so you can separate them out and use it as a filler as well and they also have a pretty good vase life if you harvest them at the right time. They're not as good as the Sweet William, mind you. Number 7 is one I also grew for the first time last year, and you can start these in spring. I again started them in the winter sowing method, though they don't need it. They are hardy, but really that was to protect them from slugs. And the Cerinthe was just amazing because it flowered around the same sides, the same time as the sweet peas, and it has these beautiful little bells on it, and basically it just matches really well with the sweet peas, and it's kind of a filler flower if you like. But if you're growing cut flowers, you do need a bit of green. I think sometimes when it's just all flowers, it can just look a bit too much. The only exception I would say for that is things like roses and ranunculus. The Cerinthe is another one that will self-seed. Ranunculus is another one. What are we on? Number 8, ranunculus. So they take a little bit more work to grow, but they are beautiful. Let's throw in anemones at the same time. So you're kind of getting 2 for 1 here, because the reason I throw them both in at the same time is because they need the same kind of treatment to get them started. And you need to, they will flower about the same time as well. So you're going to get those cut flowers at about the same time. In terms of complication, they're a little bit more complicated. I do have videos on how to grow them, but they are really blousy, pretty flowers for the garden, and they make great cut flowers. If you're growing them for the first time, I definitely recommend just getting the high street versions, the garden centre versions. Don't be investing in expensive varieties. See if you can grow them first, and then you can refine your choices in following years when you have more experience and start getting more expensive varieties if you want. You can overwinter them, but I've found when I've tried to overwinter them, they just get a bit straggly. So I prefer to start mine in the spring. So they're my favourites, but of course there are many more, such as sunflowers. You've got yarrow. Ami is a very good one because you can kind of grow lots of that at the back of a border, and when you harvest it, there's not, you don't notice. Actually, I should have said one of my favourites, actually, this should go back in the earlier part of the video, is a sweet rocket. That is a beautiful flower. It flowers nice and early with these. You can get them in a purple, but mine were white. White, they're kind of luminous, beautiful branching plants, and it just keeps going, and it just produced so many flowers that it really, for me, was a great staple in the early part of the summer for bouquets. There was just so much of it. And it filled up a big patch in the border as well, a big space in the border. It was very nice. Other ones, such as Shasta daisies, they fill up a big space. They're they look like a proper border flower, but at the same time you can harvest them as a cut flower. Things like nasturtium, I actually really love nasturtium as a little cut flower in a little sort of cottage garden posy, and of course that's another one that sells seeds. You've got cornflowers, again another one really easy to start in the winter sowing method, so you can perfect for beginners. I've put whole videos out on the winter sowing method. It's a really foolproof method, especially for beginners, especially if you're growing quite a few new flowers, if you're a new gardener. Or actually you can grow veg as well in that method, but it is really quite foolproof. It really has transformed my gardening because it got me off off the starting blocks. I was able to grow plants successfully enough that it encouraged me to do more, and then I just got into the swing of it. So I don't necessarily need the winter sowing method anymore, but it was so foolproof that it was very encouraging for a new gardener. What else have we got? And of course then you've got flowering shrubs such as Buddleia makes a beautiful cut flower, I think, especially if you're doing a big blousy vase, because you've got long tall stems with these beautiful flowers. You get it in a range of colours. You can even get different types of flower heads on there, and of course then you've got hydrangeas. The trouble with hydrangeas is if you're harvesting them for cut flowers, they look a bit of a mess. Ditto peonies. Unlike roses, which regenerate by being cut, the others do not. So, but you can obviously still use them. You've got mock orange also. Honeysuckle is a brilliant one. Clematis you can actually even use as a cut flower. And my favourite, which is the Gerbera rose. I absolutely love that. And the more I think of it, the more I'm just thinking of more flowers. Of course, you've got foxgloves, etc. But, if you are starting now, start some of these in the winter sowing method. Obviously not the shrubs. You can't grow those in the winter sowing method. But the annuals and perennials, you can. So give it a go and don't overwhelm yourself like I did and grow everything on the list. Just stick to a few, get to know them, see how they perform, and then do some more, because you can always do some more sowing of other plants in spring as the weather warms up, so that you'll have a succession through the summer. Anyway, I hope this really helps you get started with your cut flower growing journey, and I'll see you again in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.